Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. I'm excited today to do yet another interview with some very, very talented people. I have with me today um, Megan and Noah. As you can see by their title there underneath, it's Megan and the Birdwatcher officially for business terms. But Megan, Noah, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate you both being here.
Thanks for having
Yeah,
us.
great to
Happy
be
to be
here.
here.
Absolutely. What we're going to be doing today is we're really going to be talking a lot about their brand new record. Just came out October the 10th, called the Americana Dream on Missing Piece Records. It's a fantastic collection of songs that I encourage everybody to listen to it. If nothing else, if you decide you don't want to hear the interview, please go listen to the album. I'll say that at the top because it's fantastic. Megan and the Birdwatcher have quite a resume already under their belts. Just 2 albums in, but they're already winners of the Americana Artist of the Year, Album of the Year, and Entertainer of the Year from the Midwest Music Organization. And they've also shared the stage with quite a few folks through various festivals, etc., that you might have heard of. Hosier, I saw Sam Bush Band, Sierra Farrell, a lot of my favorite people that you all have been rubbing elbows with. So congrats on all the success so far, and again, welcome. It's a pleasure.
Thanks so
Thank
much. Good
you.
intro.
Yeah.
Well, again, first off, I want to say how much I've enjoyed the album. I've listened to it a few times. I've gone through and listened to some favorites that are already, getting stuck in my head right now. Um, I just think it's so cool that Americana is kind of making this, almost a resurgence because, you see so many artists that are, collaborating with the top 40 type artists. I mean, you see, Hosier's name, for example, he shows up in people's, collaborations. You see people like Sierra Farrell show up in artists like, Post Malone and people that are,
hmm
the hot thing right now on top 40. So it's cool to see these names pop up. What is it that you all think is so alluring about, just Americana as a thing, as a genre?
Hmm. It's a good question. I mean, it's it's kind of timeless in a sense. Like it's what's in our blood as Americans and being here. We whether you like it or not, it's something that most of us kind of grow up with and have an experience with, and it kind of captures like the condition of like living here and being here and like the sounds and the people and stuff like that. And it's kind of funny because it just it seems like they just often uses like a grab all to just be like, I can't firmly put this into country or bluegrass
Or folk or
or
whatever.
folk or
Yeah.
western swing. So it's Americana, you know what I mean? But that's kind of cool because that gives us the option to not feel bogged down a little bit or locked in. It lets us kind of be creative and discover stuff. What do you think?
Yeah. I think what all of those genres you also said have in common, and just kind of like the people that you mentioned feature a lot in like popular music, is like there's just like a truth,
Mm.
about their voice or their message or their brand or whatever, like that just feels authentic. And that to me, or hopefully to a lot of people now, it seems like is there's just this kind of magnetic attraction, maybe back to feeling a little bit more authentic and a little less, I don't know, not that.
Yeah.
I mean, I would be remiss. You both, home base being Minnesota. That is the, home state of Mr. Americana himself, Bob Dylan.
hmm
Which, people love him or hate him. He's a big, big name in my life. Um, you know, he kind of, encapsulates everything that you just said. Different voices, different experiences, and yeah, that Americana experience just seems to be, woven in our fabric, whether we like it or not.
hmm
Mhm.
Definitely.
So many artists I feel like today too, like with the industry and the band, or with the branding that happens now, it's a lot of artists are kind of maybe trying to keep recreating the thing they just recreated. What I mean? How do you your signature sound? How does that stretch over another album? But what's great, even like bringing up Bob Dylan. Not that I'm going to compare us to Bob Dylan or anything, but just I think the mentality of what's something else I can do? How can I make this change? How is this different? What's the next sound I'm exploring? So at least that part is something that we try to do as well.
Yeah, in a world of TikTok where a lot of people, it feels like, are just like, okay, what's trending? Let me try to do that. We try to tune that out and just say, what are we feeling?
Yeah.
What's fun for us? So,
Sure. And I mean, you can really see that on the new record. I mean, because you all bring in so many different sounds. I mean, you listen to one song and it's a straight ahead country song. You listen to another, it's almost like a second line out of New Orleans.
Mm.
uh,
Um, so what is it, like you said, like you're kind of just going for what feels good. Um, you know, I think that's, like you said, a lot of what's missing today in mainstream type
mhm.
music, is that feeling of what feels good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just we have a lot of influences. We don't just stick to one. Because we like a lot of music, so it kind of depends on like what's the mood, what's the feel, what's the vibe of that day, and for writing a song that if we wrote like the song Danny on a Monday as opposed to on a Friday, maybe it would have turned out a little bit different or something like that. You know what I mean? So it's not like it's just a whim, but a little bit it's like getting into different headspaces, and I think getting excited about that. What gets me excited and keeps me going is being able to do something different. So if I've been spending a lot of time on, kind of in a certain creative headspace, it's revigorating to try something else and move somewhere else. So,
hmm
yeah.
And also, we're like a live band and we
Yeah.
like to perform in front of people in a lot of different types of settings. So it's pretty great to have a variety of different levels of energy and depth and all of it to make different set lists depending on where we're at and what feels correct for the space that we're in. So
Well, what's cool, and watching videos of you all and seeing you know older concert footage, you're not afraid to break down the band into different sizes and into different configurations. And that's something that I think is really powerful. Again, in a world where we rely so much on a lot of sound, a lot of technology around us, what is it, do you think, about being able to do that with just a couple of guitars, or a trio, a quartet? Like, what do you think is important about bringing that to the crowds that you play?
I think
Hmm.
different configurations, and we've heard feedback too, that says the same thing. Different configurations of hearing our songs um, touches people in different ways or attracts different kinds of people. We've got a killer 7-piece set, boot stomping, good time, like everybody dancing. But then, we'll go to like a farm or whatever in the middle of nowhere and play as a trio with 3 harmonies and like 2 acoustics and a mandolin or a fiddle, and the songs take a different shape, which attracts a different type of person to the song that's delivered in that way. And so, like, I don't know, I just feel like it's really cool that we have the ability to connect with different types of people depending on how we deliver our songs, because we have such a variety of different messages, like anywhere from like rhododendron, which is just like a silly song about a flower, to like we've got songs about addiction and loss and like really important stuff too. So I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, said it better than I could say it. So,
Well, it kind of comes down to, what you always hear is, a great song can really just be played on, one or two instruments, acoustically.
hmm
Even a pop song that, again, requires,
yeah.
a lot of technology behind it. If it's a really good song, all it needs is a piano or an acoustic guitar, and, you're
Mm.
good to go.
yeah,
Um, so again, I can see that with so many of these songs, because there are so many styles, whether it is an acoustic song or full on with electric guitars and
Yeah.
right.
brass sections and all this good stuff.
Yeah.
So that kind of leads me into just kind of getting behind the writing process, because again, there are so many different styles on this record. How, what is it like, sitting down or, emailing, texting lyrics? What is the writing process like for a record that has so many different styles like this?
Mhm. It starts for the most part. We're so Megan and I are the main songwriters, and the process generally starts separately. We do a majority of songwriting on our own, and for me, it's like in the shower or driving a car or mowing my lawn or plowing snow because we're in Minnesota. And it's a lot of that and kind of try to like start to form the identity and the main structure and just kind of like what is the point of this song, and then we'll kind of maybe sometimes it's like I have 3 verses and choruses and bridges and here it is, but for the most part it's kind of like here's a verse and a chorus, what are you thinking, and then it's like when we send it to the other person and we kind of start to collaborate on it there, and maybe
Yeah.
the other person will write another verse to it. There was some great times where there's a couple, I think 2 that I was writing that I was for this album that I had a verse and a chorus, but I just didn't feel like I had any like the character wasn't there. Like I knew what I was saying, but the character wasn't there. So like I sent it to Megan and she sent me back verses, and it was like, oh, okay, now it's like, we can take the other person kind of out of the headspace we're in, or kind of maybe that like more like blinder focus. Like I'm trying to do this with the song, but it's not really working, and we can say, oh, I'm coming in from it from this angle now, and it's like, oh, I didn't even think about it like that. So it kind of like breathes life into that way.
Yeah.
And then normally when it's like that point, then we get together and it's like, let's hammer this out. Let's find exactly where each part is, and then introduce it to the band and go from there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So again, so you've got the songs, you know, probably stripped down for the most part. You go into the studio. When what is the conversation like where you're saying, oh, we should probably add, smoke an electric guitar lead here, or we should, throw in some horns here. Like, is that an easy conversation to have, or is it kind of just an organic feel when you're in the studio?
I would say it was for this record, it was pretty organic. I mean, there was a couple question marks like Gates of Heaven, the way we started the record. That was like an open book of like, okay, this is literally like I'd been singing it for some years, but never recorded it or anything like that. And it didn't have a full structure yet, but literally it was always a cappella. So we were like, what instruments should we start with? So that was kind of a fun one. But usually the way Noah and I write is just like his acoustic and then our voices. And then it was just fun to have just us two and then our producer, John, just approach each song. Like, but for like Token on the Holy Ghost, we knew that was going to have electric guitar in it. But yeah, I mean,
John is great in that too. John Fields, our producer, in that he was just like, hey, let's try it. Put it on there. You got an idea? Do it. Try it. Go. It was never like, oh, let's, well, okay. Is this
he's
gonna
so
serve
quick.
the song? It's just like,
try
go.
it.
Boom, record, done. Do we like it? Okay, maybe we'll sit on it.
Let me add tambourine. What do you think of that tambourine?
And then we can kind of sit with stuff, but it's like, let's put it on there. So it's kind of like, why don't we do the things? Kind of like there's no wrong answers, but like let's just do the things and get weird. And that was cool too, because I feel like we found some stuff, some small things on. I can think like Rejoice for one, where we kind of tried something that maybe was a little weird. Like it's kind of a risk, but then like you have that space to be like, let's just try that, and it turned out cool. So.
Yeah, that was so cool about recording with John, because he's just such a quick little wizard in the studio where it's like you have an idea, you can try it out in a matter of like 15 minutes and then like either like it or don't, and then move forward from there. You don't have to spend too much time really thinking about it. You can just try it, hear it, and be like, okay, no, and move forward without too much time wasted, because he's just fast, which was an adjustment to get used to, because I, for one, overthink everything, but he's just like, what do you think? Make a decision, which was kind of helpful. Like it was helpful in the end for sure. But like Millie Moon, for instance, like, we recorded most of that song. We kind of knew all the band members were going to be on it, like Fiddle and Mando and stuff. But then like we heard the demo back, then all of a sudden was like, oh, wouldn't it be so cool to add accordion to this? Like, and John did it in his off time. He's like, hey, I put some accordion on there. And we're like, oh, sweet. That sounds great. So
that's been one of the songs it's just in my head all the time right now. It's such a great tune, and it's everything that I like about music, because like you said, it's just got all these little pieces. It's got fantastic vocals, and yeah, the accordion, the mando, all the acoustic instruments. That to me is just like an encapsulation of Americana in a broad sense. Is that
That's
that
great.
tune?
That,
That's a
yeah,
great tune
fun one. We tend to close out shows with that one because it's just so joyful
Good
and
energy.
fun. Ends on a good note for sure.
for sure. Well, you were talking about John, and for those that don't know, that's Fields, who is legendary with the number of people that he has. I mean, the diversity is just incredible. I mean, Miley Cyrus, Daryl Hall, the Backstreet Boys,
Mm.
Demi Lovato, Ben Rector, like all these different people. And it kind of makes sense that you said, that he's a wizard, that he's so quick because he's had to deal with so many different personalities, so many different styles, and
Oh yeah.
I'm sure seeing that technology change so much from,
Yeah.
30 years ago when he was, doing stuff. So I'm sure he's an incredible asset.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
He
A little
was-
intimidating at first, but that was literally just our first session, and
Yeah.
after that, it was fine.
That's what we needed
Sure.
to. Like, let's just do it. Let's just get to the truth of it. We don't need to like sugarcoat things and stuff. It's like if this isn't good enough, it's not good enough. If it's not working, it's not working. You know what I mean? Like things like that. And it's like, yeah, let's do that. Let's just do what is best for these things.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. So with this record, because it's been a few years since you last released a full length record. Was the creative process any different? Did you feel a little bit more at ease with this record? I mean, I know you've got some EPs that you put out, but in terms of a full length record, how did this feel compared to the first one?
Compared to Moonshine.
night
Ooh,
and day.
yeah.
Moonshine was
We
wrote
were
all
babies.
That. Well,
No,
yeah,
I'm just kidding.
but we wrote all that during COVID. Like
Yeah.
that was like we were just like we had time to just like sit around and write. But that was the thing where we kind of did all that. And God, I feel like
Mm-hmm.
4 or 5 months of like starting to write all the songs, and then probably a 6-month process to do that, and then get in the studio and have it done. Because we did that in 2 or 3 days in the studio.
Mm-hmm.
Where this one we have spent a total of 3 years from when the first like recorded song on this album began in the studio. So that was way different because that was for Moonshine. It was let's just go in, hammer all these out in a day or two.
Because we've already spent
Because we got
however long practicing
Exactly.
them with the band, whatever.
And this is where we were like, what if we just bring in the nuggets of ideas and see if they can kind of be birthed in the studio.
Yeah.
Obviously, we were doing it for 3 years straight. We would take long breaks.
Yeah, because we were touring and busy
Yeah.
playing live shows and all that stuff.
And then
throughout.
writing at the same time, though. You know what I mean? So having that kind of in like writing during the process and things like that, and then kind of hearing how maybe the first couple songs were turning out in the studio, and that kind of helped kind of shape our perspective a little bit of where to go and stuff like that. So it was night and day. Couldn't be.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
I mean, that's very very brave to put out the first record in a time when it was just so difficult to work together.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think we recorded it when things were like starting to loosen up, but for sure, like
we still had masks on. It was like March or something
Yeah.
of 21 that we
Yeah,
like
it was a
recorded
year,
it,
basically,
but
yeah.
we still had to have masks while we were in the studio, and then we released it in October of 2021. Yeah.
Wow. Well, it's interesting then, because if you take a look at fast forward to this record, the Americana Dream, there are so many themes related to being home and just places that are like songs like Montana, which I think is a great little country tune. So there's all these places that these songs take you to keeping your roots planted and things like that, which is what we were doing during COVID to the extreme. Where do you think that theme came from? I mean, was that just, were you both kind of on the same wavelength with thinking about that idea of roots and keeping your feet planted?
Well,
Interesting.
I haven't thought about it like that.
I don't think that we even thought that,
It
and
wasn't,
so you brought it up, which makes me think, oh, that's pretty
But that's fun.
true. That's
good.
cool.
That's kind of the goal here, is to try to
Like,
something
you
that
tell
means
us what
different
our
things.
writing means. No, but like true. Like, that's really actually kind of cool, because we're both homebodies. I'm not a homebody per se, but he's a homebody. He
I
doesn't
love
even
being
like
home.
traveling that much.
I
I'm
know.
like, and but we're so committed and love like our families and our family life and home
Mhm.
while also being a traveling band. And so I wonder if that
Mhm.
somehow came through in like some of,
Yeah.
how we were
Well,
writing.
and maybe seeing and experiencing other people's roots, kind of in a sense like that, and like other cultures, and not like not
Mm-hmm.
like not American cultures, but just like being in
Hmm.
how life is done
Yeah.
in different wings, kind of seeing maybe the roots there. You know what I mean? And people who there's so many people like, especially like in the music industry, and like you find all these little pockets of little music communities who are so dedicated to what they're doing and what their vision is and supporting music in their
And
way.
that's their home and
Right,
their
and
community,
that's what it's so important to them. It's like viscerally important to them. It's like the number one thing, and and that their goal for most of them is not like let's just try to grow or something like that. It's just let's just cultivate our little community here and bring things in and have experiences. So I think a lot of, even though all the songwriting is about different things and different topics, a lot of it is influenced kind of by that idea and seeing those places and the passion.
Because I mean, I can imagine, considering you all have played so many different festivals and have I'm sure been side stage or in the crowd for other acts that you're watching, that you're sharing the bill with. So I can only imagine that you're talking to some of these people, you're hearing their sounds, and you're bringing your sounds to them. Like, do you feel like being around other like-minded musicians influences your songwriting, or do you try to kind of avoid those influence to try to stay more true to an individual kind of style?
Me personally, the songs that kind of start with me always start with a melody that has decided to descend upon my head, like, and so it doesn't, as far as I can tell, I mean, we listen to a ton of music while we're driving and like all that stuff, and I'm sure that gets in there, but just melody
Mm-hmm.
lines are kind of a driving thing. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Being around other musicians and seeing other bands and musicians perform is extremely inspiring.
Mm-hmm.
And I just find musicians and painters, but that's a side topic, like totally fascinating.
Yeah.
And like, I just love being in the presence of like creatives doing their thing.
Yeah.
But I can't say that it influences uh my songwriting or like performance style necessarily.
Yeah, and I don't know if it does for me directly, maybe indirectly, but for sure, like there's this like energy of like belonging,
Mhm.
energy of like joy and positivity. So those things I feel like definitely influence. We still kind of have our own kind of we get locked into something. We're like we're gonna do this thing.
Even
Um,
if it sounds weird or different,
yeah, yeah,
but like,
but it's also not like we're not like, well, we can't sound like any of these people. That's not what we're doing either. You know what I mean?
yeah.
It just kind of comes out that way in the wash. But definitely those kind of feelings of belonging, commitment, joy, things like that. Good energy.
Hmm.
Try to capture that.
Sure. No, and yeah, again, that's not me saying that you're coming across as that. I just
Yeah.
know that for anybody that's in the arts and around it all the time. I mean, that's the joy of it, and that's kind of like the folk aspect of it, is the passing down of the styles.
I think the biggest thing is when I see somebody doing something that's unique in them, and they're like killing it like that.
And it's just them, and you're like,
Yeah,
you're
that's the
doing
most like
you the best,
that's the most like influential and inspiring thing. You know what I mean? 'Cause it's like that's just like, oh yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's continuing the messaging of like, there's this painting that my mom had gotten me that said like, she, shined her light and in turn, gave other people permission to shine their light or something like that. To where it's just like when you see someone being completely themselves and just like killing it, it just makes you feel inspired that you can just do you the best that you can do you, and then the right people will find your music and your way of doing things.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, with that, because at the time of filming this, we're about 2 weeks out from when the record was released. How does it feel for you as artists to you know, from other artists that I've talked to, it always seems like there's like this little bit of you know, a nerve, you know, the night before release day, and then when it's out, you know, now it's, you know, with the people, the way that that's recorded, and you know, you all are playing it on stage in whatever way you want to play it, but that body of work, the way it's done, is out and recorded. Is that something that goes into your minds whenever you release something or a part of a project? Is that something that that sticks with you?
Yeah, I don't think I was even like nervous about it. I mean, not because I was like, oh, it's gonna be so great, but it's just more like we have been talking about this album
And
since
thinking
the
about this
beginning
album
of time, it feels
for
like.
so long.
So it's like, please just release and but just be, yep, it's done. Great. Sounds good. It's out. Not no, but you know, not like we're
Just
like
anticipating.
it's
There's
just
been
like
so much
yeah,
anticipation of
yeah,
like when people can finally hear it. And now
yeah,
we're just like, oh my God, it's actually out. Like
yeah. It's like
Mm.
okay,
people can hear it. You don't have to do this
yeah.
like secret link stuff or
Mhm.
like whatever anymore.
Well, and we were you know reminiscing or not reminiscing, but reveling in the idea that you know I feel like as like a fan of like a band when they release a new album, it's like it kind of has this feeling of like the beginning of like oh here's this new thing, here's this new sound, I can't wait to dive in and stuff like that. But for us, you know, and on the other side, it often feels like kind of the end. Like here we go, the finish line is
Like,
here.
wow, we've made
You know,
it,
and,
you know?
of course we still talk about it, and, you know, do things like this, but it's like okay, it's done now. You know,
Yeah.
kind of shifting to something else. You know, so.
And I'm
Yeah.
sure. Sorry, go ahead, Megan.
No, I mean, not shifting to something else. Like even just the thought of that made me just like cringe a little just because like I don't want to shift yet. Like I just want to sit with
I've
this.
shifted.
I want to sit with this baby for a while and like
Yeah.
talk about each song and like whatever. But yeah, yeah, it's been a long process and it was quite a relief to get it out there. And it's also just pretty fun now to just see what people are saying and thinking and what their favorite song is. And because it's like such a different record, you know, so many things to kind of dive into. So
Well, that's the thing. It's, you know, 13 songs, so it's not like, you know, it's not a, you know, 8 or 9 song record. You have a good amount of material here, which makes sense considering how long, you know, you all have been working on this and preparing to release it.
Well, our goal was to pare it down, but then we're just like, well, I guess not. We're just gonna do it.
we did have to cut one song for vinyl,
Yes, for vinyl.
but other than that, like 13 songs.
Yeah.
Otherwise, yeah.
Yeah, you gotta love vinyl though, even if you don't
Yeah,
know the
it
song.
forces you to be like, this is what has to happen, and the equal amounts of minutes on each side, and like
Mm-hmm.
the science. But it's very cool. We're so happy to have vinyl. Like any musician always dreams of being able to have their stuff on vinyl. So we're excited about that.
That's very exciting. I mean, the majority of the audience that watches this channel are vinyl collectors
Oh,
and physical media collectors. So obviously, you know, telling them or not telling them, you know, asking them to go and purchase the vinyl, the CDs, everything physical, because you know I know that's, you know, what helps the artist. It's what gives you, you know, that encouragement to keep going. That's why I always say, you know, go to the merch tables, you know, buy straight from Bandcamp, you know, whatever it might be. And I encourage all my, you know, everybody that watches this video, please go and do that. Everything will be below the video once this is posted. But real quick before we finish up, I did want to mention that you all have a few tour dates still left through November. Is there anything else on the horizon that you want to share in terms of, you know, playing for next year? Or is there anything like that you would like to promote for next year?
yeah. I mean, next year on the books, we have the end of January. We're going to be out in the Denver area. If you've got anybody watching in the
Mhm.
Denver area, like the last weekend of January.
It's such a good music scene in Colorado that we like
Yeah,
can't resist not
we
taking
do
a
love.
special trip to go to Colorado, play Colorado.
Yeah. And then aside from that, you know, there's a handful of regional festivals that kind of get us out of our winter doldrums in like February and March. But you know, we'll announce those in the future. But yeah, as far as travel, it's just Colorado in January.
we have our big local show at the end of November coming up called the Marragrass. So that's kind of our like, we haven't had like an actual album release party or anything like that. So that'll be kind of that thing. So that's our next focus is that.
Yeah.
Great. Well, all the everybody out there in the Midwest that's watching, please go and support. Again, I'll say it one more time. The Americana Dream is just recently released. It came out October the 10th on Missing Piece Records. Again, I highly recommend checking it out. It's a beautiful piece. All the songs are great, no filler. It's just catchy songs. I love every second of it, and I can't wait to see you guys out on the road. But thank you both for doing this. I really do appreciate it.
We appreciate it. It's great.
Thanks so much. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
having us. Appreciate it.
All right, everybody, take care, and we will see you very soon.
Bye.
Bye.